Hello and welcome to the Gooner Talk, back again with you guys for another show, for another episode of our Raw Reaction series where we react to the latest Arsenal news, get your thoughts in our live chat, and we've got some news to discuss with Tom without a hat on, which does prove to you that I have gone nowhere near a hairdresser in the last 2 months. This is getting Elvis levels of poofiness in my hair. It's so poofy. It's just a way to describe it. It's just there's so much of it. But hopefully, I might have to go and ask the missus just to take a couple of clippers to it. I'm not going to go too all over, but maybe we could start this off as a poll on Twitter. Maybe we can start this one off. How can we make Tom look as ridiculous as possible by just taking a pair of clippers to his head? Might be the way that we do this. But anyway, we're going off on a bit of a tangent. We're going to talk about Saliba. We're going to get your thoughts in the chat box as well. Tonight, of course, we do have a podcast to talk about yesterday's game and all the fallout. We'll probably discuss a little bit more about Saliba there as well. 8:30 with John, Drew, and Adam. So I look forward to chatting to you guys for that. But let's crack on with today's show as we talk through William Saliba. So, we're on Arseblog News, which is your go-to for your Arsenal news in written form and podcast form. If you want to join Andrew and James for the Arsecast Extra and stuff. This is written by Andrew Allen, talking about the quotes from Saliba, which was posted on Telefoot this morning that came out. I obviously wrote an article about this as well for 101, which you can check out. But I didn't use all of the quotes, so we're going to go through all of the quotes today. And this has been taken from GFFN as well, which I know people have an issue with at times, but we'll skip quickly past that and just we're going to read through the quotes. We're going to understand what he said, listen to what he said. I'm going to give you kind of my reaction to it, and then I'll get your thoughts on it as well in the chat box. So Get your thoughts going. Tell me what you think. We can react to it as we go, and we'll break it down for the next 20, 25 minutes or so, and then we'll have a bit of a conclusion about how we're going to react to it at the end. So let's read through the quotes first of all. So he goes, honestly, if you told me a year ago, I honestly would not have believed you, he said, regarding the prospect of playing for Nice against Saint-Etienne on Sunday, which I believe they've lost that game very late on, 1-0. I really, really, really didn't think that I would be transferred for 30 million euros, and to think that I would arrive where people were expecting a lot from me and the fans were excited about me, and you find yourself in the reserves playing 0-0 nothing in the Europa League or the league. I was in the squad once in the League Cup. It hurt me. It affected me. I don't think I left too early. When you feel ready, you have to go. I don't think I left too early. These things happen. I believe in myself. For me, the best choice, the best decision was to join Nice because there is a good project, a good team, a good level of ambition who like to play in a certain way. It feels good to play and to have consistent game time. I'm young, I'm 19, and it is by playing matches that's like this that you improve, you see what mistakes you make and you correct them. He added, I don't know about the future. I have learned now that it is better not to look too far into the future. So I am focused on just these 6 months to try and get absolutely everything for the rest. We will see. So that is all of the quotes regarding Saliba. Now, I have talked at length about Saliba. I've analysed his performances. So this is coming from someone that's watched him play for Nice this season, watched him play for the under-23s. There are articles out there that I've written. There are videos out there that I have done on the channel. You can find them as we broke down what Saliba has done for both the Arsenal under-23s and from Nice. So this is not my opinion coming from a completely uneducated perspective. It is coming from a place where, having watched the games, having written about the games, my honest opinion of him as a player so far is that I thought he had some difficulties playing with the under-23s, but I think, and obviously I've spoken to quite a few people who also watched him, and I've spoken to other people who haven't, to try and get a kind of balanced view of it. Speaking to Clive, I remember ringing up Clive from the Arsenal Vision podcast and speaking to him about this, and he read my article about Saliba playing against Gilles in the Papa John's trophy, which is the level that Saliba sunk to since we signed him for 30 million euros. And he basically advised me about making sure you put context around him playing in the under-23s. And the context effectively is is that you're a young kid that's come in for a lot of money, playing with other kids, but you are of a different level to these guys. You are on a different plane to the guys that you're playing with. And there is an emphasis on you to go out and play for the under-23s and impress and stand out. And that in itself has a mental impact on you as a player and how you play in the games. And it will have an impact on how you actually play. You will make passes that you might not necessarily have made, trying to stand out, make things happen. And as a centre-back, to stand out is a pretty difficult thing to do. If you're an expressive attacking midfielder or a striker, it's much easier to express yourself and stand out. But as a centre-back, it's nowhere near as easy. And to do that as a centre-back, you need to be doing things like playing balls out from the back, dribbling out from the back. And that is in Saliba's game and has been part of his game for quite a while. But you're never really going to see how good he is unless he's being tested at a senior level at the top of the game, which he is doing in part at Nice. And there is a video that we did. If you just type into Google William Saliba Nice tactical breakdown, it will come up. I broke down his performances in his first 3 games for Nice, looked at all of the 6 goals that Nice conceded, and broke them down as to how Saliba was involved into them conceding those goals. And the overall conclusion of it, in short, I won't reveal too much because I'd like to go watch the video, but in short, I didn't feel he was at fault for most of the actions that went on, especially in the later games, once he kind of transitioned. That's how I kind of feel about Saliba as a player in regards to what he's done at Arsenal. Let's talk about him as the person, as the child that he still effectively is, a very young player. He has not acted, in my opinion, in the best of ways. I mean, I revealed on 101 and for an exclusive piece about his behaviour after not being allowed to play in the French Cup final, angered and maybe not necessarily anger, but certainly frustrated the Arsenal hierarchy. And his lack of inclusions was down to some professional issues that he had acted upon during that period, and was some of the reasons as to why he wasn't included so much into the senior side. Some of those reasons, of course, why he wasn't included were down to some of his performances for the under-23s as well, and because we had so many players at centre-back in that position. But he came out almost immediately after he left us to go on loan to Nice, speaking about his frustrations. Within a week, within a couple of days, I think it was, that he arrived in Nice, he had an interview and he spoke honestly, which, you can hold your hands up and say fair play. He was being honest about things, but it's not like he was sold. It's not like he's gone and isn't coming back. It's not like he's not an Arsenal employee anymore. That's what gets me, is that if you're a young kid that has had issues at Arsenal through professional problems, when you go on loan, I'm just coming from my perspective how I would treat it, and I'm no perfect human being. I have made mistakes several times in the past. That if I'm going on loan from Arsenal, having had professional difficulties where I've been previously, my thinking would be, right, I'm going to go to Nice, I'm going to get my head down, and I'm going to smash every single game as much as feasibly possible, try and play the top of my game as much as I can, and come back with a much, much better kind of image about myself than when I left. And in my personal view, and everyone's entitled to the opinion on this, and feel free to disagree with me in the chat, and we'll talk about that in a second. But in my view, going out and doing interviews, speaking about how frustrated you were, complaining about how little game time you got, saying that there was an expectation, saying that the fans were excited, saying that fan excitement justifies your inclusion or what you thought you should be included into the Arsenal team, it's not the right way to go about it. That's not the right way to go about it at all. Talk about fans being excited about you. Sure, I was like, if you want to talk about fans and how excited about you they are, say some things like, I appreciated all the support I got from the fan base, and I hopefully will repay that faith they have back at Arsenal when I return, having improved after 6 months at Nice. Don't moan about the fact that you weren't picked. Don't say publicly, like he did in the first interview, that Arteta effectively told him that he wasn't ready. I'm quoting there. He said that Arteta told him he wasn't ready almost immediately. And he said in his reaction about how that frustrated him, how he was disappointed in that. This is the second interview in January. not during his whole time at Nice. We're not looking at this back in June. We're not in June now looking back on his loan and going, he did 2 interviews during his time at Nice. It was a little bit disappointing, but he turned things around. He's done 2 interviews complaining about his time at Arsenal in January alone. I don't understand it. It might be me, and I know that I do read into things sometimes too much, and I can hold my hands up and say I do, but I feel personally in this instance, so I do 2 interviews being very publicly frustrated about your time at Arsenal. I don't think that's the right way to go about it, in my view. It's just how I see that. Now, I'd love to get your thoughts in the chat, and I want to see some of your kind of opinions around this. And if you disagree with me, go for it. Go for it. As long as we're all respectful, we'll read out your comments. Let's go up the chat and go to the top and see what some of you guys are saying. Lewis Kiriakou says, well, that's concerning comments. Really hope we can redeem the situation with him. Need to show him love. Otherwise, we might as well as pumped him and Louise's money and getting Upamecano that year. And that makes sense. Obviously, we spent a lot of money on him. If we don't want to waste that money, we could have got someone else and arguably could have been playing now and helping out and playing instead of Louise. That's not happened. So hopefully we can kind of pay back this investment. Let's scroll down a bit more. Fusion says, made a mistake in the game that led to a goal. He clearly isn't ready, but Twitter users no more. I think what you're trying to say there, Fusions, is that Twitter users don't know any more than what Arteta knows, which I would agree in general. They don't, and I conclude myself in that. KFH says, AFC Bell. Respect to the AFC Bell, who has, of course, ended his time at Arsenal. I don't know why. There's a lot of speculation as to why. Maybe we'll talk about that on the podcast. Let's go to Mitchell. Mitchell Balzan says, I know a lot of money has been invested, but he has disrespected the club on many occasions. His attitude is terrible. Sam Trester says, Saliba, stop speaking out. Babish says, and what was the reason for him to play in the under-23s? Again, I've written about that. If you type in 101 Saliba exclusive, the article will come up. You can give that a read. Matt Thornton says, I kind of feel that it is a case of being signed under a different manager and the new manager not fancying him at this moment in time, as Mikel Arteta clearly feels. Yeah, but Nicola Pepe has started to play more games. He wasn't signed under Arteta. Granit Xhaka wasn't signed under Arteta. Rob Holding wasn't signed under Arteta. Bernd Leno wasn't signed under Arteta. But, I mean, Mikel Arteta was at the club when Emi Martinez was at the club, and he decided to stick with Bernd Leno. I don't have too much of I think it's a point that works in some cases with some managers, but I don't think that is the issue here for me. I'm not sure that's for me is the issue, to be honest. And we've heard Edu as well speak out very positively about Saliba. We heard him speak about it straight after he left, about how the club view him as a long-term option. They want him to prosper. They want him to come back and play. I don't think that is necessarily the main reason as to why we've not seen Saliba. Matt Thornton goes on to say, Arteta sees him day in, day out. Think he has a much better feeling of the whole situation. Dion Gene says, I'm sorry if I pronounce your name wrong, mate. It says, we prevented him to play a historic cup final with his childhood club and you want him not to react. Yes, I don't. That's exactly what I want, because you're an employee at a club. I mean, let me just say, if you're at an employment, if a decision is made, and I've as a very young guy going into teaching, sometimes decisions were made from up high that I disagreed with, and I spoke out about it. And I have learned from that point forwards that that's not really how you should act. And this is why I'm coming from the perspective of someone who I myself have made mistakes. And you should not question, you should not be turning around and saying, that's not on, that's not okay, I don't agree with that. If you are an employee, whatever direction is coming down or whatever you are being told that you need to do, you need to follow it. You are employed, you are paid. This isn't a group of mates. This isn't your mate telling you that you need to do this and you like, nah, you can do one. This is your employer telling you what you should and should not be doing, and you are being paid to do your job. It is very, very different to being in a group of mates where someone puts out an opinion saying, oh, I don't think you should have done that. Feel free to disagree with an opinion. We do it all the time here. But when you're employed by the club, No, I don't expect you to react. I don't. I don't expect you to. I expect you to respect the decision that the club has made and to get your head down and work towards getting into the Arsenal team. That's what I expect. Here we go. Let's scroll down a bit more. Martino says, but he is a kid, obviously he's going to make mistakes. And that's why I'm saying I don't think we should just sell him now. I don't think we should move him on. I don't think we should cast him out and never play him again. These are mistakes. They are mistakes that have come out and should be highlighted and be criticised, as we do. The same way that if Arteta makes mistakes, like playing Maitland-Niles against Crystal Palace, like not making certain substitutions at certain times, as on the channel, we criticise them. As I'm criticising his decision to come out and conduct this interview, or the multiple interviews that he's done, or react unprofessionally at the club. That is what I'm criticising. But what I'm not saying is that because of those mistakes, he should never play for the Arsenal again, because they are not mistakes that warrant that. That is not what we're talking about here. We're talking about a kid making some errors that hopefully he will learn from. Hopefully he will become more professional. He will become someone that toes the line, that does what he is instructed to do by the club, and ultimately becomes a better player through doing that. You look at Arsenal right now. We've got a manager at the club that is, for a first time in a long time, really doing something about our defensive mistakes. And the players that are getting on board with what Arteta wants are playing week in, week out. And now, more than halfway through the season, Arsenal have the second best defensive record in the league. Fact. What's going on in the final third needs to improve, needs to change. I feel that it will with the development of Emile Smith-Rowe, with the inclusion and the purchasing of better players. That will improve. But what Arteta has been able to do is he's using the players that are working hard for him, like Tierney, like Cedric, clearly. And I have my doubts about Cedric, but clearly Cedric's doing the right thing. Otherwise, Arteta wouldn't be playing him. Rob Holding, done exceptionally well. Even David Luiz, who there was so many criticisms about, so many stories about, David Luiz is being picked to play for his professionalism and has repaid Arteta with some decent performances of late. It is about towing the line. It is about falling into place. It is about doing what is expected. And this is why it goes for Guendouzi. And I see so many fans turning around and saying that we're devaluing Guendouzi. We're not giving him a chance. I don't care. Until he falls in line, until he does as the club expect him to act and behave and professionally be as an employee, you're not going to play. It's as simple as that. And until you've got a disciplined group of players, you will not succeed. It is as simple as that. There is no team. You look at the whole of Liverpool side that won the league last season, all of them buying in to what Jurgen Klopp wants from his team. All of them. The reason why Mourinho doesn't succeed after, say, 2 or 3 seasons, and why what we're seeing a bit of a decline from him now, is because his style is so abrasive and it's so ridiculous at times that players just don't want to buy into it, to the point where most of the squad don't want to buy into it. And he loses the dressing room so much. Well, what we've seen from Arteta is the complete opposite of that. Is we've gone for a really tough period. We've started to move out the players that we needed to move out. And we're getting in players that clearly want to do what Arteta wants us to do. Now, if Saliba, going back to the original point, does not do and act and play and behave as the way that the club want him to do, then he will eventually go. I'm sure he will be moved on or sold or whatever. And I'm fine with that, because I want a group of players at the club that are quality, but ultimately are going to buy into what the coach is telling them, is coaching them, is wanting from them. Because there's no way that we get success with a group of players that have individuals that are rebellious and that don't want to do necessarily what the club... I mean, if you look down kind of Arsenal's history, there's always been like characters. You think about the Mario Balotellis and these types of characters at clubs. I'm trying to think of some other examples. Feel free to throw them in the chat box. Arsenal, Diego Costa. Some of these characters we've never really had at Arsenal. We've had some contentious characters. We've had like Ozil's situation, for instance, and eventually now he's being moved on. But ultimately, we've not really had too many characters that have really kind of broken the mold at times. And I know that some people would turn around and say that maybe that's a quality that's been lacking, but I think you can have that quality in a player that buys into what the coach wants, like a Kieran Tierney. I think that's exactly the type of character that you need in a team. You don't need the nasty bastard side of a player like Diego Costa. You need the tenacious, committed, ambitious player character of a Kieran Tierney. That's where my head is at in that whole thing. Let me scroll down to get some of your more recent comments and thoughts as to what I've just been saying. Lewis says, I agree, Tom. Have your frustrations about not playing in the cup final, but would have cost us 1 million for one game. I think it was even more than that. Arteta wanted him to play in that final, but it made no business sense. Move on. And the thing is, if Saint-Etienne had turned around and said that, look, we'll take him on loan. We're not going to owe you anything. We're not going to expect any money from you, because that was kind of the agreement, the loan deal. Because I think he'd have played, this is all allegedly, I'm speculating here. There was something that came out at the time about if he played one more game on loan, we would have had to pay a certain amount more money. Whatever that is. I don't know. And there was rumours going around that had he have played that game, Saint-Etienne were demanding us to pay them a certain amount of money. Look it up, research it. The info's out there, which doesn't make any financial sense for us. And he's our player now. The loan had expired. The loan had expired, and that because of the pandemic and how things have been extended out and postponed and suspended, whatever. And we had to then agree a new term, a new deal with Saint-Etienne. And what they were proposing made no financial sense for Arsenal to send a player on loan that would then cost us money. It doesn't make any sense for that to happen at all. And I'm sure that the club would have been more than happy for Saliba if Saint-Etienne had agreed to the terms and conditions that his own employer, his club, wanted them to follow. They would have been more than happy. But they weren't. And that's on them. It's not on us. And it is then for Saliba to respect that decision and not be frustrated at Arsenal, but be frustrated at his old team for not following what the club are expecting. DJ says, basically, you want yes men. DJ, good to have you in the chat, mate. Of course, absolute pleasure as always, mate. And that's fine that you agree with me. I don't want yes men. I want people that are going to buy into the philosophy of the manager, DJ. That's what I want. I want people that are going to be tenacious, committed, press, give 110% in every single game. And if the manager wants us to play a certain way, I want players in the team that are going to do their 110% best to do that. I wouldn't describe that as being a yes man. What I describe as a yes man is people that I would say that when you looked at Arsene Wenger's time at Arsenal, there was a lot of people around him that never challenged certain instances. And I think that there is a right way to challenge things. There's a right way to go about saying, no, I'm not sure about that. There's a right way to go, can I voice my concern about that? Can I disagree with that? Can I just put my point of view across? And then there is throwing your toys out the pram, which is very different, which is how I perceive kind of this Saliba situation a bit. Just immature, which he is. He's 19, he's a kid, and I'm hoping that he learns from these mistakes. And that's why we're not condemning him to like forever. Like, he can turn things around. He can recover this situation. But it's not about yes men. It's about people that buy into the philosophy of the coach. It's about people that want to be at the club, want to deliver, want to do everything they can to just perform at the philosophy that the manager. I mean, David Luiz put out a really good comment. So have a look at David Luiz's comments after the game yesterday. That was perfect. Sam, thank you so much for the super chat, mate. It says agree, disagree, or impartial. Doesn't matter. You are here, so you can smash a like on the video. Much appreciate that, Matt. Please do. Matt Thornton says, didn't Saint-Etienne not keep to the training plan? We also wanted he was hit. Yes, that's as far as I'm aware. Allegedly, let's say supposedly, check the information. We wanted a regimented medical procedure because he was coming back from injury. He was out for much of the season because of an injury. He hadn't played since March. And we wanted them to follow these strict kind of measures because we want to protect our players as much as possible. And if the club's not going to agree to that, you're not going to send your 30 million euro asset into a club that is not going to follow the medical procedures, the medical assurances that you want from them. Why would you? It makes no sense. Why would you do that? It's like sending your child to a school that isn't going to protect them, that isn't going to give all the safeguarding that they need. It's the same situation. You're not going to send someone that you've invested time and money into to somewhere that is not going to give them what you perceive to be the best possible treatment that's available. Why would you do that? It's counterintuitive. Tom says, I think a mountain is being made out of a molehill here. Words from a kid like Saliba in a moment. He's unhappy with both Arsenal and because of his personal situation don't matter for the future. I think it does matter for the future because if this keeps happening, if he keeps speaking out, with the environment and the culture that is clearly growing at the club, which is one of a philosophy of if you're coming to Arsenal, you are committed to Arsenal, you give 110% for us, you follow the decisions of the coach. If you're not happy, you can go. That is the situation. And that's why I think these types of comments, it's not about reading too much into it. I think it's about seeing that 2 interviews have been done in a single month that talk about publicly the frustrations that he's had at Arsenal. I don't see it as learning from the mistakes. That's what I see it as. Saeed says, if Saliba wants to prove Arteta wrong, he should prove it on the pitch, not by talking and moaning. Actions speak louder than words. You're spot on, mate, 100%. Sam says, Tom, a yes man would be someone accepting this type of behaviour from players. That's spot on, Sam. And that's why we're clearly seeing Edu and Arteta work together to move on players like Ozil from the club that was not willing to do clearly what the club wanted. Otherwise, he would have been in the squad. There is a financial element to it as well, obviously, too. Socrates, whatever, I don't know what happens with that situation. I think that is just a surplus to requirements. Mustafi, Kolasinac, they look like they're being moved on. Mustafi's not being in. Guendouzi was sent away. There's been countless examples of players that aren't willing to do what Arteta wants, and then they go. Then there are players that have made mistakes. Willian, time and time again. We're confused about the amount of times he played. And I think it's a fair criticism to say that Willian played too many games. You've then got Granit Xhaka, stupid red card, silly situation, shouldn't have done it against Burnley, has come back, trained exceptionally hard, otherwise he wouldn't have got picked again, and he's redeemed what happened on the pitch. And I'm fine with that. I don't like him as a character, I don't like him as a person, but I appreciate what he's doing on the pitch to turn things around, and his apology is coming through in that way. We can talk about what happened against Crystal Palace in 2019. It was under a different coach, different manager. For me, it's in the past. It's done, it's gone. I don't like him for it. I personally would have been happy to see him go in January because of what happened. He didn't, he stays, and if he pulls on the red and white shirt, I'm going to support him. That's as far as it goes for me. Ben Ham says, Arteta regrets his decision to not push him in the Europa League. Saliba doesn't look quite ready for the Premier League. He's really young. I think it was a mistake to not include him into the Europa League squad. I think that was an error, 100%. And I'm sure there's been whispers behind the scenes that the club did make a mistake about that. That was utterly ridiculous that he wasn't included, especially when Marie was injured. Babish says, please, Tom, be honest. Arteta is a yes man. That's because he's at Arsenal. Well, again, I don't agree with that, because if he was a yes man, you wouldn't see the things that are going on. You wouldn't see Ozil, who is being paid a lot of money by the club, exiled. You wouldn't see Guendouzi exiled. You wouldn't see him disagree with certain kind of transfer philosophies that's going through either. I don't think he's a yes man at all. I think that's a rhetoric that's put across by some very negative people. And I think that, unfortunately, you've maybe been a little bit manipulated into thinking that, is my view. Jack Chatterjee says, Tom, why are you inferring that Saliba wouldn't play as per manager's demand? He has appeared in only one game against Liverpool and Leicester. And what mistakes did he make? Did he play against Liverpool? I don't think Saliba played against Liverpool. He was in the Community Shield squads, and he was in the Leicester City squads. He hasn't played against Liverpool. He played against MK Dons in a friendly. I don't think he played against Liverpool. I don't think that it's necessarily about mistakes he's made. I just don't think they think the level of quality he showed in the under-23s warranted being included in the Premier League squad yet, and also the behaviour from the cup final decision. I think that's the reasons why. Karthik says, this guy should stop crying and concentrate on the present, which is playing for Nice. Stop giving silly interviews. I'm already fed up. Which is probably the more hyperbolic end of the spectrum. And I think that I don't think it's about I wouldn't describe him as crying about it. I think that he's obviously very frustrated. But in my view, what he should be doing is getting his head down, playing for Nice, just smashing that time while he's at Nice. Don't be doing silly interviews. If he's got media requirements to do interviews, great. If they ask you about your time at Arsenal, you can just turn around and say, look, I'm here at Nice now and I'm focused on Nice. What is wrong with saying that? What is wrong with turning around to the journalist and saying, look, I'm at Nice now. I want to focus on my time at Nice and getting back and playing as much as possible. That is absolutely fine. Nothing wrong with saying that. But if you start talking about how frustrated you are, going into all this detail, it's not going to help your situation. It's really, I'm just not a big fan of it at all. Kelly says, Tom, it's silly how if you are not doing Thomas Tuchel with the owner, you are labelled a yes man. You're spot on, mate. A lot of people who have not worked in the real world with ridiculous opinions. Thomas Tuchel disagreed with his he clashed with the executives at PSG and at Dortmund a lot. And apparently that makes you not a yes man. If you work well with the executives at your club, like Arteta is clearly doing, apparently then you're a yes man. I don't agree with this view. I think it's ridiculous. I think the words yes man get thrown around as a criticism when actually you want a harmonious, synergetic relationship between the coach and the executives of the club so you can work in harmony to get the right players in, to get the right playing philosophy, to work towards a common goal. That is surely what you want, a harmonious situation, which includes challenge, which includes disagreements. And we know that that happened between Edu and Arteta because it is very much out there in the ether that Edu was the guy that was more pushing towards a Thomas Partey signing and Arteta was more pushing towards a Houssem Aouar signing. And Edu won in that situation. And it's turned out that that's been very, very good for Arsenal that happened. It might be that Arsenal go and target an Aouar-esque type signing. I don't expect it to be an Aouar. We've got in Martin Odegaard this January, and that obviously will lead into whatever happens in the summer. I'm happy with that situation. Just because you are in a harmonious relationship with the executives does not make you a yes man, in my view. It's ridiculous. Manu says, I disagree, Tom. Moaning about the cup final is out of place. Not his club anymore. But why was there no plan made to get him minutes before we bought him? Either make room or send him out on loan. I think that there's been so much change, Manu, at the club. You've seen obviously Unai Emery get sacked. You've seen Freddie Ljungberg leave. You've seen Raul Sanyehi leave. You've seen Hus Fahmy leave. We've seen Francis Gadjigal and 55 other members of staff leave. It has been an utterly turbulent time at the club. And because of that, mistakes have been made. Things have got missed. Things were not done. And one of those things was Saliba's loan deal for this season or for whatever the plan was. I am hoping that after this 2020 of chaos, we can move into 2021 with things being done much better. And the evidence is there to suggest that that is happening. With the quick loans that we got sorted for Kolasinac and Saliba, by moving on Ozil, by moving on Socrates, by bringing in Matt Macy, bringing in Matt Ryan, bringing in Martin Odegaard. A lot has happened in January to suggest that things are on the right track. Things are getting done. Things are more proactive. That is why I think mistakes were made last summer, because of the combination of all of the redundancies, all of the change, all the turbulence, the pandemic, the chaos in the transfer market, the chaos with the inflated squad. Mistakes were made. And I'm hoping in this summer of 2021, we will see a coherent, a proactive, and a seamless transfer window where Arsenal do what they need to do to set themselves up for a really good 2021-2022 season. We've still got a lot to do this season, but I'm optimistic from what I've seen this January that we're going to see a much, much better season this coming season. So there we go. Let's move on, I think. Let's save and park all of these questions and conversations for the podcast this evening. I said I was only going to come on for half an hour. I've come on for a little bit longer. That is going to conclude the show. If you've disagreed with me, that's absolutely fine. Please leave your comment and explain your reasoning behind why you don't agree with my point of view. Opposite opinions are very, very welcome here, and you are not going to be ridiculed for having an opposite opinion whatsoever. Please leave your comment in the description. Please drop a like on the video to appreciate the time that goes into making these. And I'd appreciate if you could drop a subscription if you're new and you don't currently subscribe, and drop a hit on that notification bell so you never miss a show. And also, if you'd like to help support the channel, I'm looking to kind of get some big professional changes in regards to the look, the branding of the channel with the financial support that all of our members help to give us. And that is being worked upon with some professional people. So I'm looking forward to hopefully in the next few months or so rolling that out. We will see how that goes down. Other than that, it's been a pleasure to speak to you guys as always. I will see you again very, very soon this evening, 8:30 p.m. UK time with Drew, John, and Adam to talk about Manchester United and look ahead to Wolves on Tuesday. See you again very, very soon. And as always, up the Arsenal.